All right, Mizzou fans, let's have a talk. So Mizzou lost to Auburn today, 17-14 in overtime, in one of the most painful losses that I can remember as a Mizzou fan. And this one is up there with, the fifth down game and the flea flicker and the missed field goal against South Carolina. I mean, there's just no way around it. I delayed making a video on this game or doing a post game or anything like that because I was just totally deflated, on top of the fact that I didn't feel great already. And so I waited until, late Saturday night to make this video and just kind of get all my thoughts out on the game. But now here I am. And now that I've had, quite a few hours to let the loss sink in, I think I'm well equipped to talk about this game and the direction of the program after this game, because I think that's going to be the conversation more so than the actual result of the game or like any analysis on the game, because Drinkwitz is being held under a microscope this year by the fan base. And you guys know, based on my past videos, that I'm an optimist about this football program. I'm a believer in Drink, and I know a lot of people are starting to get turned off by him because we're seeing a lack of results on the field this year. And today was, another reason for fans to doubt Drinkwitz and doubt this football team. And, I can't really blame fans. I can't blame fans for being upset. This was a game Mizzou should have won. They absolutely should have won. It would have made your record 3-1. Now instead you're at 2-2, and in a season with a schedule where it doesn't look like there's a ton of wins left, you had to have today. You had to have this Auburn game today. This was a winnable game. It's a time in Auburn's program where they're down. Those Auburn fans, they wanted Brian Harsin fired. They've been wanting Brian Harsin fired. His tenure there has kind of been a disaster. And had Mizzou actually won this game, I think Brian Harsin would have been fired. But instead, he gets to survive a little bit longer, and instead, fans on the Missouri side are now looking at their coach and Eli Drinkwitz saying, is he the right guy? We'll come back to that question a little bit later, but I want to talk a little bit about the actual game first, because today's game, look, it didn't end the way we wanted it to. It was right there for Mizzou to win, and that's what makes it so frustrating. That's what makes it such a bad loss, is because really there were three different times in which Mizzou should have won the game. They really lost the game three times. They lost it at the end of regulation when Harrison Mevis missed the field goal. They lost it when they had an offsides penalty on Auburn's field goal attempt in overtime because their kicker missed that, but since Mizzou jumped offsides, they got another shot and the kicker made that one. Mizzou probably would have won if that original play stood and he missed it. And then they lost when Nate Pete obviously fumbled at the goal line. People have a lot of criticisms about Eli Drinkwitz and this football team after that game. And again, I get it. It's okay to have complaints. After a loss like that, you have every single right to complain because that was a game Mizzou should have won. That being said, and as I've told you guys, I'm optimistic about this football program. I'm also a believer in Eli Drinkwitz, and I still am after today. I already know what people are going to say to that. How the hell could you be optimistic after today? What makes you believe in Eli Drinkwitz still? How could you still like the guy? Look, today's game, if you want to complain about Drink, okay? One of the top complaints about Drinkwitz is play calling. And I saw a lot of that today, too. The play calling from Drink sucks. Guys, I don't know if you watched today's game. This game was not on Drink in the play calling. The play calling was fine. Mizzou's biggest problem, still, is that they don't have a quarterback, okay? And I'm not going to put this whole game on Brady Cook or anything. And Drinkwitz, he didn't coach a perfect game, but I thought he coached a pretty damn good game today. He put this team in a position to win multiple times, and the players did not execute. And, I don't want to sit here and this whole video pile on a bunch of 18 to 21-year-old college kids because, they're taking this loss harder than we are, especially Nate Pete. Like today, I'm sure he's devastated after what just happened on that last play. But you know what? This game, I thought the players lost the game, not Eli Drinkwitz. Mizzou's defense played lights out today, and Mizzou's defense, I think we've seen enough from them, and they've been put on the field enough because of the offense to the point where we can say, hey, you know what? This defense is pretty good. This defense is the reason Mizzou stays in a lot of games, and they're probably the reason that they have won each of their games this season. As for the offense, it's brutal. It's terrible. It is no fun to watch. It's uninspiring. It's a lot of run, pass. And, if you were to make a blame pie for the offense and why it's bad, I think almost half, if not half of it, has to go to the quarterback play because it's just terrible. I mean, Brady Cook simply is overthrowing guys 15 yards over their head on simple slant routes. There was one play, and it was really bad. I think it was in the third quarter where he directed the tight end, Shepiator, I believe he was targeting, to the left of him, and he could have ran it, but instead he wanted to do this throw so badly, and he was directing him on where to go. Throws it, and it's 10 yards over his head out of bounds. It wasn't accurate at all. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And, again, I don't want to put this whole game on Brady Cook because I think if you were to make a list of things or a list of reasons as to why Mizzou lost today, Brady Cook might be like third or fourth on that list. He's not a great quarterback. I think we've seen enough of him to figure that out. He's not great. He might not even be good, but he might be the best that Mizzou has, so there's really no point in continuing to complain about him, I guess, and that includes myself because he's the quarterback, and he's going to continue to be the quarterback unless this season really falls off the rails and Drink decides to try something new and throw Sam Horn out there for once. I don't know. We'll see. Going back to the blame pie, I think a good portion of it, maybe a little bit less than a quarter, maybe a quarter of it would have to go to the offensive line because they haven't done Brady Cook a lot of favors this year. But in this game, actually, as the game progressed and, they made some substitutions, offensive line didn't look too bad. And that was against an SEC opponent in Auburn. Auburn's not great this year, but their defense is, no slouch. So, I mean, the fact that Mizzou's offensive line was able to hold up against them, I was surprised by that pleasantly. Also, thank goodness for Dominic Lovett because I'm not sure where Mizzou would be without him. And I know Luther Burden got all the hype this year, and he hasn't done a lot yet, and we'll get to that in a second. But Dominic Lovett has been everything that I think Mizzou fans thought Luther Burden was going to be this year. Dominic Lovett's been absolutely killing it. He had another 100-yard receiving game today. I'm pretty sure I think after today he might lead the SEC in receiving yards. So, I mean, the dude's having an absolutely fantastic season, and it sucks that his performance was wasted today. But yeah, shout out Dominic Lovett, I guess. Now, going back to the blame pie. At least in the first 3 games of this season, a good portion had to go to Eli Drinkwitz and his play calling because it wasn't great. It hadn't been great leading up to this game. There was a lot of questionable things he was doing. And he talked about how, he needed to get Luther Burden the ball more, and he did that against Abilene Christian. And then we come out today, and Eli Drinkwitz really fails to get Luther Burden involved at all on offense. I'll say this, though, about the whole Luther Burden thing. Luther Burden draws a lot of attention, and that has helped Mizzou offense in ways that people are not seeing, especially with Dominic Lovett. That's an example. He's a benefactor of Luther Burden being on this team and on the field. But also, at times, I feel like this whole thing about needing to get Luther Burden the ball is blown out of proportion because at some point you're forcing the ball to Luther Burden instead of, letting Luther Burden get open and then actually having the quarterback hit him when he's open. Because, there was the play today that got picked off. Brady Cook goes to Luther Burden. Luther Burden wasn't even open on that play. He was blanketed by the defender, and Brady Cook still threw that because there's this whole emphasis on getting Luther Burden the ball. Brady Cook knows that too. And it's a really complicated situation because, Luther Burden should be getting the ball, and Drinkwitz maybe should have drawn up a couple sweeps or had him go in at the Wildcat today. But also at the same time, let's not force the ball to Luther Burden just because we should get the ball to Luther Burden and the commentators keep saying it. Going back to my original point, though, about Drinkwitz and the play calling, I know it's been an issue this year, but today I don't think play calling was a huge issue. I thought it was good, and Drinkwitz, like I said, when it came down to it, he put this team in a position to win the game. Say what you want about the first 3 quarters and whatever, and it was an ugly game, and Mizzou had to punt the ball a lot, but so did Auburn. And look, when it came down to that last drive, when the clock was running down, Drinkwitz got this team inside the 25-yard line with a chance to win the game. And look, personally, when I was watching, I thought Drinkwitz should have went for a touchdown because you play to win the game. And with the way Auburn's offense was playing that game, I would have felt comfortable leaving like 30 seconds on the clock and kicking it back to them. Drink didn't feel that way, though. And that's fine because the strategy Drink took, or the decision that Drink made, was to run down the clock and have his All-American kicker go out there, who had never missed inside 30 yards before today, go out there and win the game. And you know what? I can understand that because, look, a lot of people are, using 2020 hindsight vision to say Drinkwitz should have went for the touchdown. And yes, personally, I wanted to go for the touchdown at first. I wanted to go for the jugular. But Mevis was perfect from inside 30 yards for his career. And, it was a chip shot. It was an extra point. Like, Harrison Mevis has to make that. Drinkwitz, he made a good choice. Statistically, he made a good choice in electing for Harrison Mevis to go out there and kick the game-winning field goal. We just got a result we didn't like, and it happens, and it was an anomaly, and I don't think that's on Drink. That's on Harrison Mevis because, dude, you got to make that freaking kick. Then there's overtime, and, the offsides penalty on Auburn's first field goal was inexcusable, and Mizzou's penalties weren't all that bad today. They didn't happen that much, but when they did, they seemed to be backbreaking. There was the holding penalty on Connor Wood earlier in the second half, and that took Mizzou out of field goal range. I'm pretty sure that was in the second half. Correct me if I'm wrong. But that took Mizzou out of field goal range. Look, that field goal would have essentially ended the game with the way Auburn was playing. And then there was the one in overtime, the jumping off sides that got them 5 yards closer, and it resulted in a make. And this team does seem to lack a little bit of discipline, and that does go back to the coach. But if I were to blame a coach, honestly, I think we need to take another look at Eric Link, the special teams coordinator, because I don't think special teams have been great this year, and that's his sole job. He is the special teams coordinator. So, look, I know I'm kind of making him out to be a scapegoat to Eli Drinkwitz because people are going to want to blame Eli Drinkwitz, and Eli Drinkwitz probably is going to get the blame, probably should get some blame because he's the head coach. He takes responsibility for all this. But in particular, special teams, I've been paying close attention to them all year because ever since Drink came, he brought Eric Link with him from Appalachian State, and we heard about how great of a special teams coach he is, and I haven't quite seen that. Regardless, though, after that, Mizzou needed a touchdown to win. That's all they needed was a touchdown, and they were going to get it. They were inches away from winning. Nate Pete gets a run to the outside, to the left side, and he takes it all the way down to the one, gets pinned into the sideline by an Auburn defender, reaches out to the pylon, or to the goal line, rather, and the ball falls out of his hands. And Auburn recovers, game over. Look, Drinkwitz drew up a great play call there to get Nathaniel Pete the ball, who had been Mizzou's best running back all day, and Nate Pete fumbled the game away. And I hate to say that because Nate Pete's a good kid, and he transferred here. He came home after spending a few years at Stanford and really fought his ass off to get that starting running back spot. And it sucks for the game to end the way it did. It sucks for him because that's not the result that he wanted. But look, that's not on Drinkwitz when Nathaniel Pete, who's been playing running back his entire life, fumbles at the goal line. It's just what happens. It's what happened today, and it was the most Mizzou way ever to lose. I don't think any of us had any words for it when it happened. I don't think many people were shocked. I was even texting my group chat while watching the game at the Harrison Mevis field goal. I was like, he's going to miss this. Like, I can just feel it. You get that feeling when you're watching these games, and it's like Harrison Mevis. And the commentators were even talking about how, he's perfect from inside the 30 or whatever distance it was, and how he's one of the best kickers in the country. And I'm thinking, every time it seems like when the broadcast is hyping up a kicker, the kicker goes out there and misses the kick. And that's exactly what happened. They were talking about how great Harrison Mevis is, and he goes out there and he misses a chip shot that would have won the game. I mean, how freaking Mizzou. This loss sucks. There's not a great way to describe it. It just sucks, okay? It was a game Mizzou really needed to win, really should have won, and it would have been great for the program going forward had they won this game. In retrospect, though, and when this season is over, people are going to forget about this Auburn game. It stings right now, and every time you remember it, it's going to sting. But if Drinkwitz ends up working out, people are going to forget about this game, and it'll be whatever. But if the team decides to roll over and die after this, which I don't think they will, because say what you want about Drinkwitz and his teams, I've never seen them quit. Drinkwitz teams don't quit. They could have quit several other times, and they never have since his tenure has began. But if they roll over after this Auburn game, then yeah, I mean, this is going to be the game everyone points to where the Drinkwitz tenure started to crash and burn. I think I look at this game similar to how I look at that 2018 Mizzou versus Kentucky game when we still had Barry Odom. You know, the one where Mizzou went to prevent defense in the last couple minutes and Kentucky was able to score a touchdown to win the game on an untimed down because of a phantom penalty call, right? You guys remember that one. I think a lot of people after that game were thinking, you know what, Barry Odom just isn't going to work out. This thing isn't working. You know, it was another choke job loss, and Barry Odom didn't end up working out. But after that Kentucky game, they went on to beat Florida the next week, who was ranked number 7 that year. They went on to beat Vanderbilt, Tennessee, and Arkansas to end the season and made the Liberty Bowl. So, you know, this doesn't mean the season is over, losing this Auburn game. And I know I said this after the K-State game, and now I'm having to say it again for this Auburn game. But the season is not over. This team has a chance to respond. They might not have a chance to respond next week against Georgia because, come on, they're not beating Georgia. But after that, they got Florida, Vanderbilt, South Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee, New Mexico State, and Arkansas. You know, on paper, Missouri and Florida, I think Florida is overrated. They probably should beat Missouri, but we'll see what happens. Vanderbilt, that's a game Missouri can win. That brings you to 3 wins. South Carolina, they look dreadful. Missouri can win that game. If they win that game, that brings you to 4 wins. Kentucky should probably win that game. We'll see what happens. Same thing with Tennessee. New Mexico State, that's a win. Boom, you're at 5 wins. Then there's Missouri and Arkansas. Maybe by then Missouri improves enough to where they can make that game competitive. Maybe or maybe not they get bowl eligible, but at least then the season's not a disaster. You know, I don't think we're at that point yet. And I don't think the offense is going to be this bad all season long. I think we're going to see the offense improve. I still don't think they have a high ceiling, but I think we'll still see them improve as the season goes on. Because everyone left the Mizzou defense for dead last year saying, you know what, there's just nothing they can do about it. The defense sucks. Mizzou sucks. They're not going to be able to win any conference games, blah, blah, blah. Then the defense had this massive turnaround, and Mizzou ended up going on a run to end the year to get themselves bowl eligible. I think the offense can have a similar turnaround this year because I think they have just enough pieces, and I think there's a better quarterback in Brady Cook that we're not seeing yet that could help elevate Mizzou's ceiling. I know it's hard to be positive after this game. I know it is. People have checked out. You know, I get it. That's how Mizzou fans are. That's how fans are in general. But I believe in this team. I believe in this program. I'm not trying to change your mind, but you know what? I'm not going to sit here and be a lame duck fan and give up on the season and Mizzou sucks and Drinkwitz is going to get fired. You know, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to say that. If that's what you want me to say, then you can just stop watching my videos or stop watching my channel because I'm not going to say that. Drinkwitz is going to get all of this year and he's going to get next year to show us what he can do with Sam Horn. And as I've said in my past videos, if that ends up working out, he's going to get a pass. If it doesn't, well, then he's going to get fired. But this year is not the judgment year, okay? Year 3, I've said this before, years 1 and 2, well, year 1, he probably overachieved with that all-SEC schedule, and it made people's expectations unrealistic for year 2 and year 3. And I'm not saying you can't complain that Mizzou looks like they could go 4-8 because, yeah, you want to see progression, but you know, I can accept the fact that it's not coming as quickly as we wanted it. I can accept that. But I do think there's a road to this program being very good in the near future with Eli Drinkwitz. So that's all I got after this game. You know, it's a sucky loss. It hurts. No one wanted it to happen, but it is what it is. You just got to move on. And I'm just going to try to do my best to move on. And Mizzou's got to do the same. Us as fans, we got to do the same. So that's all I got for this video. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Mizzou fans can find this. Make sure you guys leave your thoughts down in the comments because I want to hear from you after this game. And then make sure you check out my work on showmefootball.com for more. But yeah, I'll see you all in the next one. MIZ.